Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the first dev server for update Ixwa Strike, and this is the Rooikat MTTD. This is one of the most fascinating vehicles when it comes to the new South African line, which is coming to the British tech tree in the update. If we have a look at the research tree, you will find it as the second to last vehicle in the line and at 9.3 rank 6, just before the Oliphant Mark II. This, in all extensive purposes, is an upgraded Rooikat with a very interesting prototype turret, which actually is more formed in like a T-shape, as you can see here. The vehicle itself is kind of set up like this for two reasons. So you can see how the crew, which is a 3-man crew, is set very low in the hull. This obviously increases their survivability since they aren't as poked out compared to the other turret, and also at the same time it means that an autoloader can be fit in for the gun itself. The gun is a 105mm GT7 cannon. It is 2-plane stabilized and does have a gun depression of 10 degrees, which is very positive, and it unfortunately doesn't have any secondary guns or secondary missiles or anything like that. This thing only has the central gun, so no machine guns or no nothing like that, so you're very much reliant on that gun at all times. It does have an autoloader with 20 pieces of ammunition, so you're really not going to run out of that, and because of the way that the turret is set up, if you get shot in the front, you know, your crew has high survivability, but also protecting that ammunition at the back is only 25mm of armor. So they're going to punch through that, hit your ammo, you're going to go kaboom. And that's a bit of a problem. The chassis is just the standard Rooikat chassis. I don't know if it's been modified at all, but it doesn't seem to have too much armor on it. Looks very similar to the Rooikat in all of its looks. And it does have this little box on the top, which I'm not going to talk about yet because I'm hoping they add its functionality to the game. It would be a pretty cool function to actually have. This machine is backed up by a 567 horsepower engine. It is slightly less than 30 tons, giving it a decent power to weight for its capabilities, and supposedly it can go 120 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure about that, but we could maybe get it close if we decided to run it on a road for half an hour. It does also have a really good reverse with 2 gears 44 kilometers an hour, which is way more important than that max speed going forward. And with the 3-man crew and the fact where they're set up, there is actually quite a lot of space in the side of the vehicle. Basically this whole area is going to be a space because there's going to be no ammo here. I doubt anybody's going to take more than 20 rounds, so this will be a space, this will be a space, this will be a space. So APF SDS, which is the round of choice for the majority of people at 9.0, is just going to go straight through it if they don't shoot the turret of this thing. This is going to be the weak spot, obviously, which I think a lot of people are going to aim for. The other characteristics of the gun is obviously the ammunition. Now, this gets access to DM23, but it is a rank 4 modification. This means that you're going to have to use the Heat FS the majority of the time while playing this vehicle to get the APF SDS, and the Heat FS is okay, you know, 400mm, 346, 200 respectively, which is fine, but the fact that you're going to have to use it for such a long time to get this APF SDS, it would be nice if there was a rank 1 APF SDS, just like there is for a lot of other vehicles around this BR, just to make the grind a little bit easier. Even though one of the things that does make it easier is this is not an end-of-the-line vehicle. So right now, with the Oliphant after it, it means that the modifications won't be as expensive if it was at the end of the line. It does get access to thermals though. I believe it's only gunner thermals, but that's still pretty good for a 9.3 vehicle. Laser rangefinder, of course, but it's a rank 4 modification, which is very rough, and it does get access to the 2 modifications for scouting, which will help it quite a lot. Turret rotation also will be very useful on this machine. Artillery as well, because the turret rotation is 34.0 degrees per second when fully upgraded. That to me is very good for this type of vehicle, and also The reload, even though it's an autoloader, it's still only 6.7 seconds, so it's not really setting any records when it comes to its reload. Hopefully that either gets decreased, or hopefully, you know, you always get the first shot off, because otherwise, you know, you're going to struggle in the engagement itself. Overall, it's looking like a really fun vehicle though, and also at 9.3, you do have a pretty fun lineup, not at 9.3, but at 9.7. The two Challengers, the Vickers, the Stormer, and even the Oliphant Mark II. This is going to make a cracking 9.7 lineup, backed up by this tank destroyer, which does have scouting. Unfortunately, my boy, the other tank destroyer, the JPZK-A2, doesn't get scouting, but hey ho, that will be a crusade for another day. Once again, it does have access to some pretty cool skins, being a South African vehicle. The standard one is a little bit drab, but the other three are nice, with the winter camouflage standard, and then also the deforming tricolor and the deforming stone camouflage, which is beautiful as well. I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to the South African tree. I think it's really well done, and I'm just so happy to see it in the game. The DM23 pens 337-284-195, which should make it pretty nice. It does get access to a Hesh shell. If you are a masochist, it is definitely for you, but the majority of us who aren't are obviously not going to use it. The silhouette of this machine is not crazy high compared to some other, well, I suppose MBTs comparing it to this BR, but it still is pretty high, and it does have some weird angles on it, so a lot of people might shoot the center of it and might ricochet some shells off of it just because of the T-shape that it has going on. I feel like this is going to be weirdly survivable as a vehicle, or people are going to learn, just like you do in the Ho reproduction, where to shoot the flat bits. The thermals themselves, I'm pretty sure, are Gen 1 when it comes to the gunner, and then it does not have commander thermals, which is a shame. So only Gen 1 thermals. That is completely fine though for a scout vehicle. Would be nice if it had commander's thermals, but you know, you can't have everything in life. I mean, I'll take the thermals where I can take them, basically, when it comes to a lot of these vehicles. So the mobility is good. You know, it's not going to be the best in the business because the engine is not as powerful as some of the other ones of this BR. You start getting into the MBTs here, which have ridiculous mobility. The XM1 is the BR of this thing. You know, the Leopard 2K is only a step up at 9.7 with insane mobility. And unfortunately, the British vehicles in general struggle with the mobility angle, apart from maybe the Vickers MBT and this thing. But I think it'll be okay. It'll be a nice change for a lot of British players who are used to stuff such as the Challengers, which until fully upgraded are not as mobile, but even when fully upgraded, they're not as fast as other MBTs, but they're quick enough, I think is the way to put it. And the Rooikat MTTD will be fine in that regard. It will also be fine when it comes to its killing power. DM23 is completely fine for this BR. It'll chop through pretty much anything you let it have a go at, and if you decide to run it at 9.3 by itself with 9.0s to back it up, such as the Chieftain Mark 10, which I don't think you should, by the way. The Chieftain Mark 10 is not a 9.0 vehicle. It should be an 8.7 vehicle at this point, but I'm guessing nobody's playing it, so therefore there's no stats behind it. And if you decide to run it at 9.3, you take yourself out of that top tier bracket of 9.7 to 10.7, so this thing could actually become a sole carry. The fact that it has, you know, the DM23, it has a decent reload, has good mobility, it has all of the hallmarks of a machine that should be able to solo carry, apart from its armor, where you will have to be the one which is just looking all around at all times to make sure that you are, you know, that you are not getting looked at or not getting shot at. But even if you do run it at 9.7, which I do suggest, you've got to remember that this machine is a vehicle which does have scouting. So if you do get into those 10-7 matches, you can use it as a passive scout. You can then use the DM23 to be able to penetrate the majority of weak spots that any vehicle will have. And because of quantitative matchmaking as well, you will only have to face the top BR 25%, which obviously will be Leopard 2A6s at this point, since there doesn't seem to have been a counter added to them in the game yet. So I hope they come soon, so we get a little bit more balance at top tier. But this in the game as a 9.3 vehicle, I think is completely fine. I think it'll be good to play. I think it'll be fun to play, and it will be useful on the majority of maps just because of the modifications it has access to, and also the different play styles when it comes to the fact that it's wheeled, the fact that it's a scout, the fact that it's got a laser, the fact it's got thermals. It has all the bells and whistles it needs to be good. It's just going to be down to the player and how they decide to utilize them. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hosest Kishot, Hans, Bareen, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.